The Bible is full of wonderful stories that we as children's workers love to share with the children. However, we often make one of two mistakes. Either we share a story that's so exciting and so interesting that we completely forget to relate it to the everyday lives of the children. Or we give the children so much wonderful Bible teaching that we completely forget that the story should also be interesting for the children. And it could even be that we combine these two mistakes. First, we share an exciting story, but only when the story is over and the focus and concentration of the children are finished, then we start to apply the story and explain to the children how they can use it in their lives. However, it is possible to avoid these two mistakes and still tell an exciting story, but also give biblical teaching without the children getting bored. I'm going to present to you now a method that combines these two things. The idea is that you share a story with the children, but while you're telling the story, you have some actors that are acting out the story. They don't need to say anything, they simply just follow your storytelling. And in this way, their preparations are kept at a minimum. And in this way, you can use both adults, teenagers, but even also big children as your actors. But 3 times in the story, you pause the story and then the actors know that they should stand still. Not in a funny expression that keep the attention on them, but just simply stand still and look at you. The actors will know when to pause the story because at this point in the story, you will show a sign with your central truth or key sentence on. A key sentence or a central truth is an eternal spiritual principle from the Bible that's important for the children to know. It could, for example, be God loves you, or it could be God is all-powerful, or Jesus can forgive you. But only choose one central truth for each story you are telling. 3 times in your story, you want to pause the story and you want to teach this central truth to the children. First to the head, then to the heart, and then to the hands of the children. It's a good idea to show a sign with the central truth on, but from time to time you could also use an object instead. For example, if your central truth is God loves you, you could show a heart, or maybe your central truth is God is all-powerful, and maybe you could use a hammer to explain that God can do everything. But your actors will know that when you show your sign or the object, then it's time for them to pause their acting. 3 times in your story, you want to teach the central truth to the children. The first time you want to talk to their heads. This means you actually want to explain what the central truth means. If you, for example, have chosen the central truth, God is all-powerful, then you could explain why God is all-powerful, what He can help with, how He can help, and why He sometimes chooses to help in a different way from what we want Him to do. After you have taught this, you put down your sign with the central truth and the story continues. But at a later point in the story, again you pick up your sign, the actor stands still, and this time you want to teach to the heart of the children. You want to speak to their feelings or their emotions. A good way to do that is to use an example from your own life or the life of a child, or maybe a thought of example. The idea is that the children should think, wow, I can relate to this. I want this to be true in my life too. Then you put down the sign, the story continues, but towards the end of the story, you pick up the sign again, and for the 3rd and last time, you teach to the children the central truth, this time to the hands of the children. This means what can the children actually use this central truth for? Not in 30 years when they need to make a big career choice, but next week when they're sad or afraid or confused, how can they use this central truth? Then you put down the sign and you can finish the story quickly. And in this way you have taught a wonderful story, but also given wonderful biblical teaching without the children getting bored. In regards to costumes and props, keep it simple. Take a bed sheet, cut a hole for the head, find a belt and a hat or a scarf, and you already have a great costume. Or maybe someone from your church would be blessed by making costumes for you. If you live in a bigger city, it's also possible to find Middle Eastern clothes shops with dresses that they actually sell very cheap. It's also good to have a little collection of props with maybe some coins, some glasses, a crown and a sword, and then you have props for almost any story. Now I'm going to present to you the story of the prodigal son so that you can see how I use this method. I didn't have so many actors with me today, but that's actually good because then you can see how it's possible to use only a few actors and a few props and still present an exciting story with good biblical teaching. In the Bible, Jesus tells us a story about how much God really loves us. He starts the story by saying that there once was a father and 2 sons. And the father, he just loved his sons so much. He was so happy that they were there every day, that he could see when they were doing well and he could help them when they were not doing so well. They were living on a farm and they were so busy doing all the work on the farm. They had to dig holes and they had to fix the fences, and they were also going to feed the animals every single day. And one of the brothers, he just loved the work. It was so wonderful to dig holes. It was so wonderful to fix the fences. It was so wonderful to feed the animals. But the other son, he did not like it. Oh no, he didn't like to dig the holes, and he didn't like to fix the fences, and he did not like to feed the animals. But one day he got a wonderful idea, and he quickly ran to his father and he said, "Father, Father, I have to talk with you. I have this great idea. You see, one day you're going to die." "Yes," the father probably said. "And when you die, I'm going to inherit some of your money." "Yes, that's right," the father said. "But I would like the money now. Couldn't I just get it now so I could get far away and experience a lot of wonderful things?" I'm sure the father must have been a little bit sad about this discussion. He loved his son so much and he wanted to be with him every single day. And this is actually the same with God. He loves us so much and he wants to be with us every single day. I have this heart with me today to remind us that God loves us very much. He loves you very much. He wants to be with you every single day. He keeps an eye out for you, and he looks at you, and he's sad when you're sad, and he's happy when you're happy. He would so much like you to remember him every day, but even if you forget him, he still remembers you, and he keeps an eye out for you because he loves you very much. Just like this father loved his son very much. And he didn't want to ask the son to stay if the son didn't want to stay. So actually he decided to give the money to the son. And the son, he was so happy. He decided he had to leave straight away, very quickly. A few days later, he just left. He was so busy saying goodbye. I'm sure the father must have been so sad as he was waving his son goodbye. But the son, he was so happy. He went away to a far country, and there he was just going to live his life. What could he do in the new country? First of all, he needed new clothes. So he quickly went to a very nice place to get new clothes. Oh, it was so wonderful to be able to do whatever he wanted with nobody telling him what was right and what was wrong. And he did find some very nice clothes. There was a beautiful robe. And there was a nice belt. Oh, it was all so nice. Even a hat. Wow, this was wonderful. No more digging holes and no more fixing fences. No, now it was party time. Now it was time to spend a lot of money. Oh, he needed new friends. But with a lot of money, he quickly got a lot of new friends. And they had fun. It was nice to have a friend who had so much money. And it was time to buy food and drinks and just have a good time. But actually the Bible tells us that it wasn't such a good time. Actually they started to do stupid things. I don't know what they did. Maybe they drank too much, and maybe they got into a fight, or maybe they didn't feel so well. But next day it was time for a new party. And this time it wasn't a good party either. Again they got into a fight or did other stupid things. But it continued day after day after day. And the son, he spent more and more of all the money he had gotten from his father. But one day he noticed something. there wasn't any more money. Well, it was good he had some friends. Maybe they could pay for the party now. But when he asked them if they could pay, they said, no, we don't have any money. But you're my friends. Yeah, not anymore, they said, and they just took off. And there he was with no money and no friends. He needed food, so he had to sell his beautiful clothes to get some money so he could buy some food. But when that money was spent, he had to sell his shoes also. And he had to use that money as well for food. But it didn't take long before there wasn't anything left. What could he do now? The Bible tells us there actually was a famine at that time, so there wasn't very much food in the country. And he'd got a job where he had to look after the pigs. What a job! This wasn't what he had anticipated in the new country. No, this was a horrible job. Oh, it was so disgusting. The pigs were smelly and the food was horrible. But the Bible actually tells us that he was so hungry, he wanted to eat the food that the pigs were supposed to eat. There he was, and he started to think about his father and the farm back home and all the wonderful food they had had there. And he started to think about his father, and then he started to realize what a terrible son he had been. How he had behaved, taken the money, just left the home. Oh man, probably the father would never forgive him. Probably the father would never want to see him again. That's what the son thought. And sometimes we think the same about God. We completely forget that he loves us no matter what. But he does. He does love us. He loves us very, very, very much. God always loves us no matter what we do. When I was a little child, I had a friend and she told me that we should steal something, and we did, and it tasted very nice. But afterwards I felt so bad. I felt so guilty and I didn't know what to do. It was just, everything just felt wrong for a very long time, actually for years. I wanted to tell someone, but I was also afraid that they would get upset with me. But finally one day I realized I could tell God. I could ask him to forgive me. And when I did it, it was such a good feeling. Everything just felt right in the world again. Maybe you remember that before I started telling the story, we were actually learning a verse from the Bible by heart. It was from John 14:6, and it explained how Jesus is the way to God. And this is why God can forgive us, because when Jesus hung on the cross, he actually won over all the wrong things in the whole world. And this is why when we come to him and we ask him to forgive us, he can just take away all the wrong things we have done. And that is the most wonderful feeling in the whole world, to know that you're forgiven and that all the bad things are gone. And this is a wonderful thing to do, a wonderful thing to ask God to forgive you and to ask him to be part of your life. And he wants to do that because he loves you so much. Just like the father loved his son, even if he had done some really bad stuff. The son thought about it for a while, and he finally decided he would return home, ask his father to forgive him, tell his father that of course he couldn't be his son anymore, but maybe he could just be a servant. So he decided to break up and go home, and that's what he did. I'm sure it must have been a long journey. He had no shoes on his feet. I'm sure it must have hurt his feet very much to go home. And I'm sure he must have been thinking about the things he wanted to tell his father. Dad, I'm sorry. I know I cannot be your son anymore, but maybe I could just be your servant. But what the son had completely not thought about was that the father loved his son so much. Actually, he has been watching out for him, hoping to see him. He had been looking for him. Just in the same way Jesus is looking for us and God is looking for us. He loves us so much. He's looking out for you every single day. And you can talk to him every day. You can tell him what you're happy about, what you're sad about. You can tell him when you're guilty about something and he will forgive you. Maybe you can even choose a time every day where you can talk to him. It could be at night before going to bed, or in the morning before going to school or kindergarten. You can tell God everything. He loves you so much. He wants to hear about it and he wants to help you. That is how wonderful God is. He loves you so much. just like the father loved his son. And the son started to say, "Sorry, Dad, I know I've done wrong things," but the father just gave him a hug. Oh, he was so happy when he saw him. And he was just so happy, he loved him so much. And quickly he said, "You need new clothes, and you need new shoes, and you need a ring on your finger. And then it's time to party. We need to party." And then he made sure that a very nice meal was made. And this time it was a good party. A party that was good when it started, and a party that was good when it ended. Because the father loved his son so much. Just like God loves you. Now you have seen how you can combine exciting storytelling with the wonderful Bible teaching. If you would like to know more about this method, you can download some teaching notes on our webpage. You can also attend one of our module courses that we have in both Danish and English, and especially in Module 3 and 4, you will learn more about this method. Have fun telling Bible stories to children.